All right. Hey, good morning. All right. What are we here to talk about today? We're here to talk about some really cool stuff with social media. 3 habits that are going to make your social media successful. Now, I'm a little unorthodox presenter. I kind of like to walk around. I feel sorry for all you people in the front row because I spit a lot and I smash fruit and all sorts of stuff. That's okay. That's to keep you awake, right? Now, duplicate slide. Really cool. Before we talk about social media, though, because I have this other word in the title, digital presence, I want to go over that just for a second. I want to help you guys understand what social media means to that and what the heck a digital presence is. And yes, I am your token Yank, probably for the presentation for the entire conference, here from Phoenix, Arizona, where it's really warm, and here where it's really cold. Before we can talk about social media, we got to set the stage, right? So 2 things I want to talk about. One is digital presence. The other thing is this kind of change we're seeing in marketing. We're going from what we call old school marketing, that's advertising, right? That's where you're blasting out your message to every channel, always the same. You just get it out, the biggest volume you can get out there. That's old school advertising. We're moving to engagement marketing, right? It's all about content. It's all about social media. It's all about actually having conversations with your audience versus talking at them. So what's a digital presence? And more importantly, why do you care, right? Well, a digital presence is pretty simple. It's all of these places that you actually go out there and publish content digitally. So it's your website, right? It's your email, it's your Facebook, it's your Twitter. It's all the stuff out there that says, hey, this is my business out on the web. This is my business in the digital world, right? That's your digital presence. And really it's about sort of how you engage with all your users through that content, right? You're out there publishing stuff. You're writing tweets. You're doing Facebook posts. You're creating web pages. You're doing marketing campaigns. You got banner ads. You got stuff coming out your ears on every digital channel you can find, right? But when you engage with users through it, that's what digital presence is really about, right? Instead of just publishing everything out there, remember old school marketing, right? Digital presence is all about new school, the new evolution of marketing, all about engagement. Now, the bad thing about digital presence is that you have one, whether you want it or not, as a company, and it actually has a bunch of content and a bunch of things about it that you don't actually publish. So, for example, if you have a company that makes widgets, make really cool widgets, they're shiny, they're bright, everybody wants one, people are writing reviews about your widgets. And those reviews are appealing all over the place. And so now that's part of your digital presence, because what are people saying? They say, hey, I heard about those really cool widgets in that widget company, but I heard they suck. Where'd you hear that? Their website's awesome. Yeah, but I read this review over here on this one site. So digital presence are not only all the activities you do out online, it's all the activities your customers do out online. So that's a really big distinction to make. And digital presence, it impacts your brand, right? Really. If you've got a horrible digital presence, yeah, people are going to start to think your company is bad, right? So there's an inflection point right now in the market and in marketing where businesses have moved away from just feeling they have to be in the physical world, they have to be in the digital world. We've talked about it for years, but now we're actually starting to see the impact of that. Bad digital presence, bad brand, whether in the real world or the digital world. Now look at this, I'm really proud of myself with this slide. As you notice, that is not a pile of US American dollars, because I was thinking of doing that. I went and got the picture and I went, oh my gosh, no, I'm speaking at a European conference, I got to make it context. And I'm going to come back to the word context here in a second. But the key thing is here, if your digital presence bombs, yeah, your bottom line is going to feel it, right? When people start to reflect negatively on what your business is like in the digital space, it's going to have impacts on what you're selling, who you're selling to, and how much you're selling of it. Digital presence ultimately is about how you communicate your story. It's all about storytelling. You guys have got to heard that right now, right? Everybody in the marketing world is talking about storytelling. I'm guilty. I write tons of stuff about storytelling all the time, and big advertisers are starting to get it, right? So this is totally not in context. But the Super Bowl, right, some people watch it over here. Yeah, it's a really boring football game. But it's like the quintessential place for new advertising. It's awesome, right? Really great big brands come out with these killer commercials. So we saw during the Super Bowl some companies like Audi, right? come out with these really epic stories that didn't have a whole lot to do with their brand or their product. It had to do a lot with the story. And people connect with the story, and what does that mean? It's digital. There's more story elsewhere. That digital presence is going to be really cool. So why is social media so important to your digital presence? Well, you can probably figure that out, right? I don't need any crayons to help draw it out for you. Social media is all about engagement, right? That's where you actually engage users. Social media is really cool for that. I mean, and I have to say, I'm going to thank Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook for making my life really complicated. Because now I have to pay attention to this channel all the time. And Twitter, and Pinterest, and LinkedIn. But the point is that's because that's where all the users are. My digital presence has permeated all of these places, whether I like it or not. I mean, you'd be surprised going onto YouTube, if you go look at product companies, how many users are making videos about products, and how many times those product videos are bad. Hey, watch how this thing breaks when I push these 3 buttons, right? So now all of a sudden, social media is critical for your digital presence. Now, the stuff on the board is definitely rocket science, but using social media effectively, not rocket science. In fact, it's really easy, actually, if you just keep a couple of things in mind. You have to remember these 2 things. I'm going to quiz you on these before you can leave. You can't get out of this room until you know this, right? So write it down. You guys got pads, notes. Really compelling content, engaging users through it is awesome digital presence. You can't really go wrong with that, right? If you're out there creating content that your users want to read, and now I'm going to tell you something, little tip, little technique, little trick. Creating compelling content for your users is not always about your product and service. A lot of times it's about your company or about something else. So I go back to the Super Bowl ad, right? Audi did this great thing about this act of bravery. The 16-year-old kid, he doesn't get invited to the prom. His dad gives him the keys to the S6. Yeah, he's a complete idiot, but still he gives him the keys to the car. The kid gets in the car, is driving down the road, and he has this sort of moment of clarity where he's like, I'm going to go to the prom and kiss the prom queen. And she does it, and he gets a big black eye, and he drives away, right? The key about that wasn't the product. Yeah, he was driving the Audi. It was all about this connection to the main character and this connection to the narrative and the story. And that's when people are going, oh man, now I'm all pumped up and I'm jazzed. I'm going to go drive an Audi, right? And you're not thinking that at first, but that's the compelling content, right? They created compelling content. They've started engaging users through it, and they got a pretty awesome digital presence. Okay, best way to engage, right? I already went over this. Duplicate slide. I like throwing duplicate slides in. Keeps you on your toes. You're like, hey, I've seen that slide before. Yes, you have. Okay, but it's not just another channel, right? Social media is not TV. You cannot just pump out your message 24/7. The same message, same thing. I posted a blog on my website. I'm going to take the title of the blog and I'm going to put it in a tweet and I'm going to put it in a Facebook post and I'm going to have the link there so I drive everyone back to my website. Oops. Epic fail, right? You don't want to be that marketing person. You don't want to be that company. Using social media effectively requires you to create new content for these channels, right? All of these channels are different and the user expectations are different. Right? So a lot of research points, for example, that more effective tweeting has to do with asking a question. But people on Facebook don't like questions. So it's understanding what's going on with your users, testing out little different bits of content to figure out how not to just broadcast your message to a new channel. All right, this is what you've been waiting for. What'd that take us? 8 minutes to get to the habits. Check that out. That's a new record. That's a conference presentation record. Make note of it right here. We got to the meat of the presentation in 8 minutes. Habit number 1, keep it in context. All right, what does that mean? I mentioned context before, right? I had a slide up there which had a big stack of euros and not a big stack of US dollars. It's because I was thinking about where I was going to present. That's context. Context is revolutionizing marketing. It's allowing us to deliver content that is relevant to the user because of where they are, who they're friends with, where they've been, what their history is. Lots of different points, data points that marketers are starting to consume to figure out what content is going to have the most impact with this user. So key habit number 1, you got to keep it in context. Now, we get trapped in here I get trapped often in a big crowd of people that look exactly the same. It's right here, you guys all look the same to me. I'm just kidding. This is the problem we get into in marketing. We start broadcasting the same message to all the different channels, and all of a sudden we look the same. But consistency, right, does not have to go in the face of context. You can be pushing out messages, but you have to figure out how to tweak and tailor them to make them applicable to the channel, right? Now, context is really different in the digital world, right? And especially on all of these devices, right? It's really different between these two behaviors. I'm sitting on the couch with my tablet versus I'm in bed with my computer or my smartphone. Those are two totally different contexts. Users have different expectations when they're on the couch versus when they're in bed. There's a bad joke there that I'm going to refrain from telling. Definitely different from this, right? I got a smartphone, I'm in a retail shop, my expectations for the content are different. And so it's key to understanding how this context works. So different methods for you, right? I apologize, this is one of the only few slides that actually has bullet points on it. I hate bullet points. So there's different methods, right? Facebook accepts longer posts, right? Twitter's got 140 characters. LinkedIn's audience is a lot of business professionals. Understanding sort of what this is, keeping it in context is critical, right? Remember who your audience is and what are their expectations. And that's what you should ask yourself every time you're going to publish something to social media. Who's my audience? Who am I trying to reach? What are their expectations? Do they want something long? When I post long posts, do a lot of people interact with them? When I post questions, do people answer them? What are you posting that's successful? And how does that relate to your overall marketing objectives? Tying product into audience is critical. So this is a snapshot of Microsoft's Facebook page. So you wouldn't think this is really spectacular, but on the left-hand side, right, Microsoft is saying, hey, submit a photo. Now, if you're on the Microsoft page and their audience are Microsoft lovers, chances are their audience are going to have Microsoft phones. So what they're really asking is submit a photo with your Microsoft Winmo phone. But they're not actually putting a picture of the phone up there. They're trying to feature information. They're trying to feature a story that doesn't necessarily feature their product. And on the right-hand side, obviously, there's lots of gaming going on with the Xbox, and so they can post content that's related to their products, but not about their products. And again, and then you look down here and you got, almost 1,800 people like this. It's a picture of a bunch of people gaming, but that's what their audience wants. And so they understand, they're keeping it in context. I'm on my Facebook page, on Microsoft. Who is my audience? Most of them are Xbox users. So I'm going to post that content that's relevant to them. Habit number 2. Woo! I'm excited about this one. Use data to make decisions, right? Data is critical with social media. And there's actually this company right out here I just found, Social Knowledge, looks like they offer some really cool dashboards. Kind of like these people. I have no affiliation with Infinigraph, but they happen to be a company out there that's offering marketers the ability to look at their brand as it relates to data, as it relates to social media. So you got these cool like smackdowns over here. You can pit brand against brand. You can see how well you're doing against your competitor. And then you got some other really not so nice looking graphs on the side, right? Typical data graphs. But the key thing is these are tools that allow you to figure out when is my audience engaging, what are they engaging around, what time are they on, all sorts of things. These are a couple other tools that do the same thing. Social Bro is one and Sprout Social is another. And again, these are tools that you can sign up for. You can actually see, and some of you probably using them now. I mean, I use Social Bro personally. I don't think that's a snapshot from my personal account, unless it says like 10 million Twitter users. No, I'm just kidding. So the key thing is here, you can go use these today. Go out, sign up for a tool, figure out what your social media audience is doing right now. Right? What are they doing 2 hours from now? What are they doing 10 hours from now? That will help you make decisions about when to post. And if you keep it in context, then you'll have relevant content at the right time of day. Ultimately, see, I went back to just the pictures, right? Pick your tool, right? There's a ton of tools out there. I mean, again, there's one, I'm doing a pitch, I don't even know those people out there. After this, you know what we should do is you guys should all go out as a flash mob and just run up and crowd their entire booth and go, hey, that guy who was speaking in there told us to come and look at you. No, I'm just, but there are tools everywhere. There's probably 4 or 5 other tools in the show. Critical metrics, right? You have to set these. If you don't set critical metrics, your data is kind of useless. What's important to you? This is totally different for every kind of company, right? Is it number of likes or length of conversation? Maybe. Is it the level of engagement with content by time? So if you've got 8 people responding and they're writing like paragraphs of information versus 40 people responding who are just writing cool or thanks or awesome, right? What's important to you? What's important to your content? And then last is performance of key influencers. Now I'm going to get to this later in the presentation, but your key influencers, you want to show them some love, right? You really do. All right, habit number 3, be your audience. This is the most important habit that you can have. Because a lot of us marketers, we stand over here. You're my customers, you're my audience. You're over there, right? And I treat you like that. I'm just pushing stuff out to you, I'm typing out, I got a 1 o'clock meeting, I got to get these 4 tweets out, I got a 1:15, I got this Facebook post up, boom, I'm done, see you later. And I'm finished. Check those things, check them off. All right, I'm done. You can't do that, right? Habit number 3 is you have to be your audience. You have to be involved in the social media. You have to be like you were reading your own posts. Now, don't go comment or like your own post, that's bad. So doing it right, Coca-Cola, right? I'm going to give you some examples now. This is from their Twitter feed. This is from their Facebook post. So as you can see here, that post that they put in there, and I'll kind of give you a synopsis of it for people in the back. It's basically responding to a customer who was asking or making a comment about their polar bears. And they said, yeah, we love our polar bears. However, we're worried that the hot desert conditions would furl their fur. That has no marketing message whatsoever. It's somebody who's in charge of Coca-Cola responding and engaging to a comment made by one of their users, one of their customers. Doesn't get them anything. Doesn't get them a potential purchase. Doesn't get them a potential sale. What it gets them is an emotional connection. That person who got responded to is like, oh, cool. And if you look at, there's actually 3 likes on it because people respect the fact when brands interact with their audience. All right. Now, of course, I got to make it contextual. I'm in the UK, so I got to rag on British Airways a little bit. All right? This is an example of what, hey, I didn't put a red box around this, sorry. This is an example of what not to do, right? This is not being your audience when you're using Facebook as your customer service channel. So the only replies that I really saw from British Airways, and it was only about 1 comment every 5 or 6 posts, was responding to somebody who was complaining about bad customer service. Oh, we're so sorry, bummer you're experiencing delays, I'll get to you right away. Well, what's the point of that, right? You're not setting up your social media just for your users to connect with each other. You're setting up social media for you to engage with your users. British Airways is not doing that well. Coca-Cola is doing that well. You can't engage if you are observing. Okay? Stop being an anthropologist. Right? It's a really cool word. I like that. Right? You can't sit on the sidelines and just watch. I got 87 likes. Ooh, there's 4 people commenting. Okay, jump in. Jump into the conversation. Be your audience, right? Get in there and engage with them. I love this one. Get plugged in, right? So many times I talk to marketers at big media companies and they are not plugged in. They're just doing this as a job, as a channel. They don't really feel engaged with their audience. And that's bad, right? That's really not going to help you long-term use social media effectively. You've got to feel like you're one of your audience. You've got to feel like you're writing your posts and your tweets and your LinkedIn updates for you, all right? That's the key difference. So now I'm going to rag on Coca-Cola a little bit, all right? So doing it wrong on Twitter, right? Obviously Facebook, different. Twitter, different. They seem the same sometimes, but they're not. The expectations that users have are fundamentally different. So here you've got Coca-Cola is just using Twitter to distribute messages. So it's just a channel. So I'm going to get this out here. I'm going to get this like happiness, this kindness everlasting. Not too late to brighten someone's day. Oh, these are cute. How meaningful are they to people, right? Where's the engagement? Look at McDonald's. McDonald's is actually engaging with their users. And you can see that. Wait. Laser pointer. It's this interactive presentation now. Look right there. Woo! See, they're talking and they're using other people in there, so they're responding and retweeting. They're actually engaging in conversation. That means that somebody is actively watching the Twitter feed to find out when people are mentioning or retweeting McDonald's information. And again, that's being their audience, right? They're interested and they're part of that. And what would they do? If they were interested in a brand, well, they would retweet the messages too. Oh, well, people are doing that. I should probably go pay attention to who's retweeting me. Oh, get out of here. I just slipped this one in here. Bonus habit. Woo! You thought you were only getting 3. You thought you were coming to this presentation to get 3 habits. I'm giving you 4. So you can thank me later. All right. I mentioned this a little bit like before. I talked about your influencers. Who are your influencers? Well, that's fairly easy to find out, especially in social media. You can just find out who is responsible for liking, commenting on, sharing, retweeting, mentioning your brand the most. Those are your influencers. And really using social media effectively to carry your message is all about targeting them specifically. You have to engage with them specifically. So first of all, you have to go find them, right? Remember those tools we talked about, right? The social knowledge tools of the world? You can use them to go find who your influencers are. After you find them, get them to do the talking for you. That's why you love them. Give them stuff. Give them kudos. Mention them. Mention them in blog posts, right? Listen, social media is all about ego. We can get that right off the mat. We all know it's about ego. The influencers want to be seen as influencers. Feed their ego. Because if you feed their ego, they will speak about your company. And if it's positive, it's just going to carry your social media, that sort of aspect of your marketing, exponentially further than you can do it by yourself. Final note. Almost to the end. Do a little Q&A. Social has to be part of your digital DNA. Okay? I'm going to harp on this a lot. You can't just make it a channel. If you just thinking of it as, oh, my boss told me I got to engage in social media, or I know Facebook's important, I'm going to start a Facebook page. If you're just thinking like that, you're going to fail. Your social media is never going to take off the way you want it to. If you want it to, you've got to make it part of your digital DNA, part of your digital presence. I'm telling my story. What parts of my story can I tell on social media? What branches of my story can I tell on social media? And how can I engage with people through those? That's who your story is all about. It's your customer. So if you start talking about I and me and me and me and we and me and I, right, you're going to fail. It's not about you. It's about them, right? So get out of the our, mine, my, me, and we mindset and get into the you mindset. Make it about your customer. Write posts, write tweets, write content that speaks to them, right? Remember, be your audience. How much do you like it when you read stuff that's all about I, me, and me, and me, and me, right? It's boring. Speak to me. Tell me what you can do for me, right? Use the you. Critical stuff as you start to write more stories. All right. Woo. Okay. Thank you.